Hello and welcome to another episode of the Basildon Council's official podcast, a place where you, our residents, get to find out about all the things happening in your borough. I'm your host Ryan, and joining me today, I'm pleased to say, is Deputy Mayor of Basildon Borough, Councillor Yetunde Adeshile. How are you today?
I'm fine, thank you.
Good,
good.
It
started off raining, but the sun is out now, so
it was
yeah,
an
it's good.
awfully wet day this morning.
It was.
Thank you very much for taking the time to come and join us and speak to us.
You're welcome.
It's a pleasure to have you. Now, we've got a few things that we're going to cover today, so we'll get straight to it. I really love talking, especially when we're talking with the councillors, so trying to get to know them a lot. I always say this, that people assume that councillors their first name and that they're not real people, almost like when you're a child and you thought your school teacher just powered down at 3:30 and then waited till 7 when you got back in. But we have things that we do outside of councillor stuff. We have things that we do at weekends. So who is Councillor Adeshile?
Councillor Adeshile is a mum, a wife, a project management professional. So as much as some people like to think that becoming a councillor, and I think that's the expectation or the assumption from most of our residents, is that you are a councillor and you're there 24 hours a day for them. We have a life outside being a councillor. I'm a friend, I'm a pastor, a church pastor. So I have church members that need looking after, need my attention to. So, for me, maybe the stuff I do, a lot of people say, you do a lot. But it's all different timings. So it's like Monday to Friday, that's work time. At the weekends, evenings, then you can do all the councillor stuff, But if a resident calls me up during lunchtime or at a time I'm available to pick up the phone, then I speak to them. I don't say it's during the day, I can't speak to you now. Or if they leave a message and I've got time spare in the afternoon or something, I will call them back. So it's, so the expectation once you become a councillor, and a lot of people will call you councillor. They won't call you, so your name completely disappears. It's like, oh, councillor, she's our councillor. Yeah, councillor has a name. But, you get used to it, and you try to be accommodating for everyone. And I think in my case, because of my name, it's not a name that everybody's familiar with calling. So I'm okay with when they call me councillor.
How long have we been a councillor for now?
So I got elected in 2021. So yeah, about 3 years. It's going to be 3 years in May.
Blimey. And do we still enjoy it?
I actually absolutely love being a councillor. I think when I first got elected, I didn't know what hit me because all the cases came flooding through. So where I took over from somebody else that was the previous councillor, it was like, no, he was working on this case for me. You've got to sort it out. But it was like casework upon casework. And before I realized it, I was spending days doing casework because I just wanted to make everybody happy.
Yeah.
And then I had to quickly learn that, you do have a day job and you can't use your councillor to override. So, in doing that, so I like to help people anyway. So being a councillor actually helps me to achieve what I like doing, which is helping people. It's a shame sometimes that you can't help people because you're reliant on the council to make the right decisions and say that, particularly housing issues, especially when you get family ones, my heart always bleeds because I'm also very emotional. And somebody once said to me, your problem, Yetunde, is you're too emotional for this role because I just want everybody to be helped and, get solutions to all their problems. But of course, we don't have that privilege or luxury because if there's no houses to house them in, then there's not much we can do. You have to keep waiting on the waiting list. And I've gone to visit people just for the sake of maybe pacifying the situation, empathizing with them, assuring them that I'm doing what I can, and assuring them that council officers are looking into it. But there is a process, and we can't start bypassing processes for everyone, otherwise it become very, very chaotic.
No, absolutely. I think something's really important. Sometimes we can often be accused of being quite cynical when we think of politics.
Yes.
But I do think, and having met quite a few and spoken with quite a few councillors on this show as well, is that for the most part, people do join because they just want to help their community. They feel that they can actually do something and help in some way. Is that something that resonated with you? So how did we get into politics? What made you want to become a councillor?
So I didn't really want to be. I didn't really.
Good
so
start.
I didn't really want to. It wasn't the plan. The plan. My case is just a case of curiosity killed the cat, basically. So I joined the Conservative Party not because I wanted to become a councillor or become a politician or anything like that. So Brexit was, the topic, the hot topic in those days. And, David Cameron resigned, Theresa May took over. And then when we were talking about Theresa May, I say this story everywhere and everyone laughs. She was a reverend's daughter. And I looked at her. I remember watching the TV that day and I thought, oh my God, she needs my help. How do I help Theresa May? She's a Christian. So I'd just gone through a course of Christians in public life. And they taught us how Christians, struggle in politics. So I thought, oh my God, she's going to struggle. She needs my help. I need to do something. I thought, oh, okay, the only way I can do it is to become a member. And then she will know that I can help her. I still haven't met Theresa May. She's no longer Prime Minister. So I joined because I wanted to help Theresa May because she was a reverend's daughter. And I thought, oh my God, they're going to eat her alive. She's a Christian. I've got your back. I'm a Christian as well. So that was the connection for me. And that's why I joined. So, of course, when I joined, nobody got in touch with me. So I was like, well, that's not funny because I've just paid for membership. I need to know what's going on. So I started calling around. Nobody got back to me. And then I contacted my MP, which is Stephen Metcalfe MP. And I arranged a meeting with him. I said I needed to see him. And he was like, okay, fine. So you go and see your local MP when you have your issues. And of course, when I went to see him, he thought I had a serious problem. And I said, yeah, I've got a really serious problem. He's like, what's your serious problem? I said, right, I've been a member for so long and nobody's been in touch with me. And I remember Stephen's face. Stephen looked at me and he said, is that your problem? And I said, yes. And then he called one of his team members and he said, meet Yetunde. Please get her in touch with XYZ. And of course, the rest. So they got me inducted. They said, so what do you want to know? I said, I want to know what members do. I'm a member. I want to know what you do. Don't you meet? Don't you do? And they said, yeah, they have a meeting coming up. So I went to the meeting and I thought, okay, that's interesting. That was the end of it. But then they had elections coming up. And they said, well, you wanted to know what members do in members campaign. So I thought, okay, yeah, I'll come out campaigning if that's what we do. The first day I went out campaigning, I was wearing the wrong shoes because I'm a woman. I was wearing flat, but it was flats. So the guys were having a laugh and they said, yours is much better because somebody else turned up in heels. So, from campaigning, got invited to the Conservative meetings that they have in the council. But all of that was just curiosity. It wasn't a case of, I had some other things because I was a community activist. Then I realized that actually these are the decision makers. And I thought, okay, I'm close to them. And that was good enough for me. Yeah. But then we were having elections. Then they needed candidates. And I was the nosy one. And they thought, well, you're so nosy, you're just going to have to go for a seat. But I'd been to, part of me being curious about what actually happens in the party, I went to a Conservative conference and my mind was just blown away. I was just like, wow, these guys are actually, they do something meaningful. Because that was when, it became real for me. It was at that conference I got inspired, not necessarily to, go and jump into it, but get more involved, as in what they're actually doing is important, and the decisions they get to make is actually important. And I guess that was the time that I said, okay, I'll stand for being a councillor. And when I stood, it wasn't a case, I didn't really take it seriously, to be quite honest with you, on set, because you know, at the beginning they gave me, the first time I've stood in unwinnable wards, which was fine by me because I wasn't really sure I wanted to win an election, because the plan was never to become a councillor. It's not like I planned a career in politics, and you know, so I can say I stumbled into it. But when I first stood, there was a lot of things that came up during the election, which was I was the first black person to stand as a Conservative in Basildon, and so many issues came up. And because I'm an advocate for inclusion and diversity, I was like, no, you guys can't be saying that, you can't be thinking like that, you can't be doing that, not at this time, you know. So it was a case of, you're black, you should be Labour, you know, what you're doing in the Conservative Party. The black people didn't really want me in the Conservative Party, saw me as a traitor. And I kind of like saw a message there. And then the Christians were like, what's a Christian doing in politics? Politicians are liars. You're a Christian. You can't possibly be a Christian. And you're a pastor as well. So all of that, I just thought, no, we need to change the narrative. And then I started to stand for that. Stand for changing the narrative. Is you've got to believe that anybody can be a politician, but you've got to know where you stand and what your belief is, and what it is you're fighting for. And I believe that me eventually getting elected, because it did take five rounds, me eventually getting elected was a way for me to get a message across. So I had to keep on fighting for something that I didn't really want to do in the first place, but I actually enjoy what I'm doing, and I see the value that I'm bringing to the community, because there are a lot of issues out there, and it, you know, and then I know that there's some councillors that take it seriously and some that don't, unfortunately, but we are where we are. So I didn't really want to, it wasn't the plan for me to, so I didn't plan a career in politics. In fact, when I was in uni, I had to take a political unit because there was no other units to do in the first year. And I took it because my sister is a graduate of politics. So I thought, oh, she can do the assignment for me. I said, when I get the assignment, I'm just going to give it to her. She's going to do the assignment for me, and then I can pass the unit. And then, of course, I go on the course, and I get the assignment, and I give it to her, and I said, right, you did politics, can you do this assignment for me? And she read it, and she said, Yetunde. And I said, yes. She said, I did American politics. I was like, well, you could have told me that before I did the unit. She said, well, you should have told me before you picked the unit. So there I was thinking she did, but she went to an American university. So she did American politics. So she couldn't help me with the assignment, so I had to do the assignment myself. And then when they marked it, the teacher gave everybody back their paper and then called me back. And I thought, oh my God, I felt so badly. He's going to have a word with me that just quit while you're ahead kind of conversation. But it turned around. He turned around to me and said, have you ever considered a career in politics? I was like, there's no way I am becoming a politician. Absolutely no way. And he said, no, you should really consider it because this is a really strong argument that you've presented here in your essay. And I said, yeah, it's slightly different to becoming, you know, one of them, you know. And I said, no, I'm never going to do politics in my life. And that was it. And I dropped it. And I was like, before anybody starts talking to me about becoming a politician, I'm dropping it. So I dropped it in year 2. So I didn't continue with it, and I didn't listen to the teacher. So when I got elected, I was like, I need to find that guy because I think he has a point now. But I studied social policy and management. So social policy is all still relevant to political life, isn't it? So, yeah.
And now all of a sudden you are a deputy mayor. When we had no ambition, no sort of interest. I don't know. I'm not sure I'm gonna. And now we're the deputy mayor of Basildon Borough.
Yes, absolutely. So
how does that happen?
okay, so being deputy mayor was kind of like, so I've watched mayors, and they go. So when I first got elected, they were going through the nominations and stuff like that. And then I heard through the grapevine. I'm one person, I like to volunteer for stuff. Not necessarily the good stuff. So I heard that there was nobody going for deputy mayor. So I said, well, we've got to have one. I know I've just been elected, but I'll put myself forward if anybody will, So I got a proposer and a seconder, which is what you need. And then I went forward. But then 2 other people were put forward. So it wasn't really, if I don't do it, it's the end of the world kind of thing. So, of course, I didn't get it that year because there were people that really wanted to do it. And they'd been in politics. They'd been elected members way long before mine. So no harm done. And to be quite honest with you, I didn't really think anything of it afterwards beyond that. But the following year, so we do the nominations every year. So the following year, somebody comes up to me and says, "I've put you forward as deputy mayor." That was Danny Lawrence, and I was like, "You've done what?" I was like, "Last year, I only put myself forward because nobody else did, and I know that as a party we've got to have a deputy mayor." And he said, "Yeah, well, that was last year. This year, we've actually put you forward." I was like, "Great, cheers. Yeah, thanks, great." So, of course, I couldn't really say, no, I don't want it, But it's not, I guess maybe I wasn't expecting it so soon because I think other people would have wanted it as well. But as it so happens, there was somebody else that that was going to go for deputy mayor at the time. And, we had a conversation and we're friends. So I was like, it's a friendly competition. No harm done, whatever. And he said, "No, I actually think you're going to do a good job. So I'm going to let you be." I was like, "Oh, no, let there be a competition and win." So he was like, "No, not having it. That's it." So, so he stepped down, and then of course I became deputy mayor.
And do we enjoy it? What's it like being a deputy mayor?
To be quite honest with you, I've really enjoyed it. I'm one person. I like to be creative and have fun when I'm working, no matter what I'm doing. So sometimes in the professional world, some people just don't take me seriously. But I know what I'm doing. My heart is in the right place. But I'm just one person. I've got to enjoy myself, no matter how critical or dire straits the situation looks. I always look on the bright side of life. Is another statement that I hold on to a lot. So the first year was very very engaging. And I remember a few people in the community have passed comments of, we've got the best mayoral team for now. Luke was very cool. He's very young. So, he would turn up, in his young style and do his thing. I'm not so young. Well, I'm young at heart, but I would come up and, put a bit of, diversity and friendliness and happy face to it and, put a joke in here and there. But I think what's really done it for me in that role is the ability to connect with the community, being such a powerful experience. And I think a lot of people still were worried that, oh my God, she's a black woman, she's going to be going out into the community, are they going to accept her? I haven't had one group that haven't embraced me as a deputy mayor, and it's been phenomenal. It's not, sometimes I go to events. I remember the first event that I went to represent the mayor at, and I came back and I said, "Lou, if he had been there, if it was you, they would have eaten you alive." I said they loved it so much. It's like, oh my God, it's the deputy mayor. And I'm thinking, if they embraced me this way, what would they do with, if it was the actual mayor here? So the community recognize and appreciate the role of the mayor and the deputy mayor in Basildon. And they always, I haven't had one experience that I felt that maybe the engagement or the service or the reception was not good enough, which is a good thing. So it's been an amazing experience. You get to do stuff you wouldn't get to do no matter how much of an activist you are.
Yeah.
You just won't get, if you get to go, you probably sit at the back. But you go to a lot of events and you sit at the front, you get the honor, you get the recognition, and it's an excellent experience.
Well, we had Mayor Mackenzie join us on the show not too long ago, and one of the things he mentioned was that he was like, I got to ride in a combine harvester that I just would never have been able to do normally. So it's fascinating. You get to do all these like interesting things and meet so many interesting people in that position. And of course, the main thing, of course, is the bling, which I love to show on camera. So we'll have that on camera, so you'll be able to see that. So being deputy mayor, obviously you get to champion a lot of causes and attend a lot of different events and whatnot. And one of them I'm aware that you're very passionate about and involved in at the moment is International Women's Day. Obviously 2024's theme is Inspire Inclusion. So I wondered if we could very quickly sort of talk about why it's so important that we do celebrate International Women's Day, and have we seen sort of by celebrating in previous years, have we seen a difference? Are there things improving for involvement with women in big powerful roles, you being in quite an inspirational role yourself?
I think inspiring inclusion, I have this opinion, and I've always had it as a very young age, and I'll tell you a little bit about my background. I come from a polygamous family, so in Nigeria men are allowed to marry as many wives as they want, and my dad married 3. So, and then I came here at the age of 8. So it's the norm. It's a normal thing for you to come from a polygamous family. Nobody likes it, but that's what we all ended up with. So I came here at the age of 8, and I saw life in a different light, which was one man, one woman, and if you don't want the woman or the man anymore, you get divorced, you can start all over again. And I'm thinking, well, actually, that makes sense. And from a very young age, I made up my mind. So, and then in Nigeria, we have this thing that the boys get to do everything, the girls get to do nothing. So I'm thinking, I'm not going to be educated for a man to marry me, to only marry other women. So I valued myself from a very young age. And I thought, I would, to be quite honest with you, I did say to myself at a very young age, I'd rather be single. I'd just rather not go there at all. If somebody's going to end up marrying 2 or 3, it's not going to happen. So in that, my journey became a journey of inspiring myself to do it my way, to do it in a different way, to be not a dictator, but a rewriter of history. But in Nigeria nowadays, you don't really get that many people our age don't marry 2 or 3, they marry the 1. So it wasn't just me. I think even the young boys at the time were thinking, I'm not going through this. We all grew up with it. It's a complete nightmare. It's not, I mean, our family wasn't that bad, to be quite honest with you. We all got along to an extent, but there were incidences that wouldn't have happened had it not been a polygamous family. So I think my thing of fighting for my rights. So we had boys, and the view is, so the men can do whatever they want, the women sit back and just take whatever the men are dishing out. And I just thought, no, it's not going to happen. I had brothers, and always my brothers, older, younger, they were always put on top. It just didn't make sense. It wasn't that I wasn't intelligent. It wasn't that I wasn't educated. It just didn't make sense. So I thought, you know what, I'm just going to have to create my own pathway here. I'm going to leave this family alone to get on with it whilst I pave my own way. Then I realized that there are other women in my shoe. Then I realized from social policy, studying social policy, and this is why maybe a lot of my passion came out. So in studying social policy and management in uni, so many things came out. Exclusion of women and, exclusion of young people, abuse, the kind of different families. Then it opened my eyes to other things that happen in the UK. And I'm thinking, oh, this problem is everywhere. So it's not inclusive in the UK. And of course, being a black woman, I had challenges in the workplace that I had to face, that I had to deal with. Never argued, never fought, never went to court, though I could have. But we've been silently fighting inclusion for a very long time. And one thing that I say is, whenever I see a gap, I always want to see it filled. Do you understand what I'm saying? So yesterday we had the project I was telling you, the project in prisons, not in prison, prisons, conference for women in project management profession. And one of the things we find is we've got to work harder. We've got to do things, times two what the men do. It's not right. We've got to fight harder. We have to make more sacrifices. In my day of when we were growing up, if you were a mother, it was a problem because you had children, you had to stay back at home. But what's also really helped me in this fight of pushing it forward is my husband. Very, very supportive, of anything that I wanted to do. And he, very, very, totally hands-on with the kids when they were growing up. But if one person had to be, if it came to the drop and both of us had an engagement and somebody had to go somewhere, it would be him that would go. But we don't quibble about that because he's so supportive. So I know that once in a while you have to do this. So a lot of the women that are risen have done well in diversity, in inclusion, and occupied spaces. They've been backed up by men that value them and allow them to be. Yeah, and that's very important.
Yeah, I was gonna say then it's a group effort, it's a collective effort.
Yes.
It's that we all understand that this is important and we all work together. As someone who grew up in an all-female household, no male influences, I've seen strong, independent women that just do brilliant and amazing things, and being able to, like you said, like your partner, being able to support that and go, yeah, you just do it. But we have to come together and do it together.
Yes.
And that's where we make changes. On that, do you think also as we work as a collective that it's important that we take voices from all diverse backgrounds,
Yes.
From all corners? They're all important. There's no point looking in one particular angle from one particular voice. It's important that we hear voices from everyone.
It's very important because we've all got our own challenges anyway. Even when we consider, I don't even know what normal is anymore. Everybody has their own challenges. Everybody has had this struggle. So, last year, by some divine miracle, I was entered into the National Diversity Award, in which case I won nationally for race, faith, and religion category. And to be quite honest with you, I didn't realize the amount of diversity that we could have until I got to that event. And everybody matters. That's the most important. Everybody matters and everybody's voice needs to be heard. So if I've got a workplace and I've got somebody that is special needs, that needs to be able to move around, that needs to be included, that needs to be part of the conversation, I've got to create an environment that makes them feel included. We work with young people and we help them to achieve success. Recently, we've started noticing some young people are having learning difficulties. It can be a very frustrating experience. It's not that you're not intelligent, but you're just not able to do it the way that school is just continuously going on about it. So when we go to school, the norm is everybody's normal. Everybody can do this thing. Can't understand why you can't do it. And if you can't do it, you're at the back of the class. And those are the kind of things we're dealing with. So we've got people with learning disabilities. We've got people with physical disabilities. We've got young girls that don't feel included. We've got young girls that want to be football players. And we've got to create an environment for that. We've got, boys that want to become a chef. It's not a crime. So we've got to listen to everybody's voice. And one of the things that maybe some people started picking up recently is that with all these women empowerment stuff, the men are getting left behind. And we've got to make sure that the men don't get left behind. What we want is healthy competition, and may the best person, not the best man, may the best person win the competition. So gone are the days that, in the employment days, I think I've broken quite a lot of glass ceilings in my career, which is because I'm a fighter. And it's like somebody said last night, we shouldn't have to fight for these things. But if you have to make yourself the best to win. If you want to win at your game, you can't just say you want to win because you're a woman. You have to win because you are talented and gifted to be able to do what it is that you want to do. So, we must listen to everybody's voice. There's inclusion based on religion. We've got to listen. We've got to embrace. We've got to, empathize and see what we can do about the situation. It's not every situation we can help, but there's a lot of, when we talk diversity, it is broad. And we cannot capture it all. It might be somebody that comes up and says something. Don't ignore it. Listen to that person and see how you can work with them to make sure that they don't feel excluded but included.
And on that inclusion and seeing women do the stuff because they're good at it. We recently had the youth mayor and deputy youth mayor of Basildon Borough's Youth Council, both young women who are they're into politics, and they're the youth mayor and youth deputy mayor. It's fantastic to see young women getting involved in politics who have a say and have an opinion, and they want to voice that. For yourself, how important is it that that women can get into these positions, and especially women, but young women as well, like young people having an opinion and a voice and showing off that element to themselves?
Young people are vital in getting involved with politics, and the more we can encourage, the better for us. I always have the saying, I believe that children are our future. Teach them well and let them lead the way. Show them the beauty they possess inside of them so that they can flourish, so that they can be confident to come out and be what they want to be. Part of society, whether we like it or not, is politics. And politics is about everyday life. And it's the politicians that are there that will make the decisions. Now, if you get me making decisions for young people, the chances are I'm not going to make the right decision, even though I work with young people. So when we work with them in the community as a community organization, we are responsible for saying, what do you think about this? What would you like to see done? So we are directed to make things happen that the children want, not, we think you should have this, which is the way we grew up. The way we grew up, you dare not say that you don't want what your parents are giving you. You just have to take it. But the dynamics have changed because now we're listening to young people and we're inviting them into the conversation. With women and young girls, it's important. Look at politics today. There's more, but is there more? And then when you get the more, are they getting the senior positions? So it's not a case of, I think it was David Cameron that said he wants a 50-50, no, not David Cameron, what's his name? Boris Johnson, 50-50 parliament, 50% women, 50% men. It's the target, whichever the case, whichever party you're in. And in achieving that is, okay, we can have 50% of women, but are they going to become prime ministers? Are they going to have senior leadership roles? So that's the real inclusion, is got the women in, now we've got to work with them to be, at the leadership positions, which 10 years ago might not have been the case. So I've spoken to a lot of women that work in the Houses of Parliament, have been MPs, and they will say to you, it's a lot better now. But when we first got, so they've had their battles to fight, they've had their challenges, and now we can start seeing the change that more women are being included. And women are important and relevant in politics because, we bring in different dynamics to it. We bring different things to the table. So some people have been able to advocate for breastfeeding in public spaces. I can't see a man doing that, and it might be something that women actually want to do. And then there's women needs that also needs to be met, and there's decisions that needs to be made about those needs, and it's not going to be men advocating for it. It's going to be women. Likewise, there's things that young people would want to see. So it's important that we get young people in, young girls, young women into politics, doing politics, because we care and we have values that is important to make politics what it needs to be.
Absolutely. Yeah. And it was fantastic having them on. It's so inspiring to see young people just really engaging with their community. Well, I can't think of a better place to finish it, really. Thank you so much for coming on and speaking with me today. I really do appreciate your time.
Thank you for having me. And can I just end by saying Happy International Women's Day to all the women and young girls in Basildon.
Absolutely. Thank you very much
for your time. Thank you so much for
having
me. Thank you.
And thank you for watching. If you did enjoy that, please do let us know. If you have any comments or suggestions for people you'd like us to talk about, please do drop them in the comments down below. Thank you very much for watching, and we'll see you on the next one.